Hi, I'm Mary Kopczynski, the CEO of Regulator. Welcome to this week's Regulatory Roundup. This week there were 2,736 alerts from 523 unique U.S. regulators, 541 financial, 675 COVID, 125 FinTech, 9 Cannabis, 51 UK alerts. Oh yeah, that's right. Now we're starting to bring on international alerts, so get ready. 245 labor and employment alerts. The regulator of the week is the New Jersey Bureau of Securities, which got a nasty ring of people who were repeatedly misappropriating funds from senior citizens. It's yucky, and it makes me sad that there are people out there that do that. And on that note, the topic of the week is consumer protection, consumer protection, consumer protection. Yeah, it's officially Consumer Protection Month, but I think the regulators had a lot of pent-up feelings on this because there were 19 alerts from 16 regulators on this topic. Not to mention, I think a lot of them were responding to Biden's order last week that he was going to do what it took to protect consumer data, including holding software companies accountable. But I also think it's a great opportunity for states to make up their shortfalls that they've suffered over COVID. So data protection and consumer protection are places to avoid landmines in fines. FINRA had the most interesting one, which was a study they did on chronic fraud victimization and how to help stop the cycle of repeat victims. Also notable was the OCC's update to the SCRA handbook. For those of you unfamiliar with the SCRA, it's a law that adds special protections for consumers who've served in the military. And the Washington State Senate passed an anti-price gouging law, as well as nailed a student loan servicing company for deceptive practices. For those of you following cannabis, multiple state alerts, obviously, but the FTC did finally settle with the 6 CBD companies that were making deceptive claims about their products. For those of you following climate, you absolutely cannot miss the SEC this week, which, in addition to hiring an official policy expert on climate risk and ESG, created an enforcement task force focused on climate and ESG issues, and they also announced their 2021 exam priorities, and you guessed it, climate-related risk and ESG disclosures. For all of my do-gooder impact investor friends, finally, there is a job for us to do. In Compliance Corner this week, we got a long-awaited update from the SBA on PPP2. The qualified mortgage definition in the Truth in Lending Act has been delayed by the CFPB. The Fed, the FDIC, and the OCC got it together and issued guidance on CRA in the time of COVID. So that's making progress. And finally, the SEC revised rules for marketing by investment advisors, so do not miss that. For those of you following diversity and inclusion, the FDIC released a strategic plan to reinforce diversity, equity, and inclusion within the agency, but also among the financial institutions it supervises. In our fine tracker this week, New York continues to rake in cash by fining all sorts of companies, in this case, NationStar Mortgage for $500,000. Their mortgage servicing division didn't properly communicate to consumers. I swear the fines in the states are up and going up every week, so you really need to plan to keep an eye out on what they're targeting. It will save you money. Also in our fine tracker, first one I've ever noticed in the last 2 years, maybe it's more common than I realized, but the NYSE issued a disciplinary action against a securities firm for having poor controls, just shy of $100,000 in fines from a private regulator. In state news, Virginia is seriously contemplating repealing its personal income tax plan. Texas opened up 100% for business. They also proposed a bill to stop social media censorship. That's it this week for Regulator's US Alerts. See you every Wednesday morning on LinkedIn and YouTube.